Yellow fever is a viral disease that is transmitted to humans by the infected mosquitoes. In serious cases, the skin turns yellow. Wait, not this type of yellow fever I'm talking about. Let's do it again. Yellow fever or Asian fetish is a strong sexual or romantic preference for the people of Asian descent or heritage. In this term, Asian descent generally refers to people of East or Southeast Asian descent. When you say someone have yellow fever, it generally refers to people of non-Asian ethnicities. So where did yellow fever come from? Yellow fever, this term was notably used in the afterword to the play called M. Butterfly in 1988. This play was about a story between a French diplomat and a Chinese opera singer. If you are interested, you can check it out. However, stereotypes of Asian women being subservient, passive, sexualized, and family-oriented have emerged way before 1988. It's traced back to the 19th century, while the Western imperialism crazily expanding in Asia. There was one prevalent term called social Darwinism back in the day. Social Darwinism was first introduced by an Englishman called Herbert Spencer. Based on Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection, Herbert first introduced survival of the fittest to the human societies and the nations. Social Darwinism fostered imperialistic expansion by proposing that some people were more fit, more advanced than others. The Europeans believed that they, as a white race, were dominant, and it was only natural for them to conquer the inferior people as nature's way to improve mankind. In addition, back in the day, many Westerners believed that Europe should civilize their little brothers beyond the seas. They believed that the non-white would receive the Western civilization, including medicine, law, and Christianity, due to the purpose of humanitarian and religious goals. So people from backward countries or areas were considered inferior to them. This is the very first impression of Asian ethnicities back in the 19th century. They were considered passive and submissive because they were conquered by the West, and their countries were colonized. Imperialism in China began with the First Opium War, when Chinese government tried to hold the British from importing opium. As for the fetishization about women being subservient, passive, sexualized, and family-oriented, mindless, based on my research, I think there are mainly two crucial reasons. Firstly, start from the Western imperialism period until the late 1940s. Tons of innocent Asian women had been violated during invasions and wars. There were brothels made for Western soldiers and other aggressors. There were comfort women made available for the Imperial Japanese Army. Lots of colonized Asian women were forced to or encouraged by the local government to serve imperial soldiers. Take Japan as an example. Tens of thousands of women were employed to provide cheap sex to US troops until the spring of 1946. As for prostitution, some were forced to due to being a victim of indenture or trafficking, while some were doing it to get out of extreme poverty. The booming of sex industry in Asia had exacerbated and perpetuated the stereotypes of Asian women being hypersexual and subservient for a long period of time. Secondly, stereotypes of Asian women were widely portrayed in books, novels, and Hollywood films back in the day, which have vastly affected how other ethnicities view Asian women for a couple generations. French writer Pierre Loti's 1887 novel, Madame Christian was a notable example. The semi-autobiographical story of a naval officer who's stationed in Nagasaki depicts his temporary Japanese wife as a dainty plaything to be acquired, like prized object. Even until today, Asian characters in Hollywood movies remain either pathetic, innocent victims or mysterious wishes, henchmen, henchwomen, or non-important weeping boys. So, is having yellow fever a bad thing? Is yellow fever the same with personal preference? Well, I think it depends on what type of yellow fever you're talking about and how you applied it to your dating experience. I think yellow fever without stereotypes is pretty much the same with personal preference. Like, you are simply attracted to oriental women for their appearance, gestures, or vibe, whatever. However, yellow fever with stereotypes is completely different from personal preference. Let's say you are so attracted to Chinese women, Japanese women, Thai girls, Filipina, etc. If you are so infatuated with them, just because the fantasy in your mind that you assume they are subservient, passive, sexualized, family-oriented, naive, or whatever you assume in your mind before you actually enter a relationship with them. You assume they would act in a certain way, they would have certain interests, then it is quite dangerous. Then this is the type of yellow fever most people dislike, because very often it is highly linked to racism. For example, there is one black guy approaching you, but you refuse to know him more or to be friends with him just because you have your stereotypes of black people being rude, unfaithful, hypersexual, or whatever. Then it is simply racism. You can call it whatever fever or influenza. I mean, it is up to you whether you feel comfortable to be friends with someone or not. It is your preference and your choice. But if human society wants to be better, then trying to overcome stereotypes and trying to give a chance to know a person as an individual is very necessary and very encouraged. Back to this topic, so you draw this image of those Asian women according to what you desire, what you want from them. And you spontaneously apply all those traits to them. Honestly, it is very insulting and hurtful to those women because they would feel that you are with her just because she's from that particular race and meets all your stereotypes. Not because of who she is as an individual, not because of her personality or characteristics. She would feel unvalued, unloved, and suspicious. You may tell me that I can learn to know her more, I can learn to fall in love with her later on. What's the problem? Well, of course there's a problem. Because she can be replaced at any time by someone else from the same race with same qualities. For you, all the women from that race are alluring, and all of them should meet your stereotypes about that race. Your having this type of idea already makes this relationship very unfair from the very beginning. Let's put it this way. You will be so disappointed when you find out that she's completely different from your stereotypes, your fantasy about Asian women. She's aggressive, career-oriented, independent thinking, she doesn't do BJ, she doesn't even wash her underwears. Then you want to break up with her. It is easier for you to walk out of that relationship because there will always be another Oriental lady to be a new target to fulfill your fantasy. However, that poor Asian girl will spend longer time to move on. Well, if she also has white fetish, black fetish, brown fetish as well, like she also has a fantasy for foreigners with her own stereotypes, then it is a completely different case. You know what I dislike? Sometimes I see some comments saying that, oh, I love Chinese women, I think they're so pure. I mean, why do you think they're so pure? How do you find them so pure? Have you ever dated a Chinese girl? All the Chinese women you dated are so pure or what? Or just your stereotypes? For example, I'm not pure at all. I'm so polluted by the air pollution in China. Personal preference for Asian women, it is more like a preference for their appearance, potential feminine gestures, or certain vibes they give you, which motivates you to know them more. But you won't define them as a certain group before you even know them. You won't have certain subconscious that they are like this, like that. You are open to know them more and ready for romance when things turn out to be great. But you won't stick around when she turns out to be a bad person. You won't continue to be a simp and persuade yourself to or convince yourself to stay in that relationship just because of her Asian face, body, or stereotype qualities. This is a difference between personal preference and yellow fever with stereotypes. I hope you do get it. Can people with the second type of yellow fever find true love? Well, I think it depends. If he's lucky, he happens to find that one Asian woman who exactly meets all his stereotypes about oriental lady, then it may last. I mean, if he's not playboy, she's not playgirl, both of them want to settle down and have a family, then yes. It does happen, but I doubt the chance. So what is passport bros, and is it the same with yellow fever? I reckon they could be linked in a way sometimes, but no, I don't think so. I don't think these two are the same thing. Passport bros are a group of American men who gave up on finding a partner in the States and travel overseas to seek love. Let's try to make this clear. First of all, passport bro, this term is very new to me. Honestly, I haven't heard of this term until recently because I have been receiving comments about passport bros every now and then under one of my videos. So I checked it out. Based on online definition and a YouTube explanation, basically these American men are fed up with dating American women. They feel like it is impossible to find someone to settle down and start a family in the States. They feel like they are just not competent enough for American women nowadays. Here we are not discussing the reason why they feel that way. I mean, every story have two sides. I can't just pick a side based on words and subjective opinions. All I know is that whatever the reason is, all these American men are so disappointed and frustrated with dating American women. So they choose to leave. They choose to experience a different life. They choose to go overseas to try their luck at finding love. So some of them may go to Latin America, go to Africa, Southeast Asia, Russia, Ukraine. Oh well, maybe not Russia, Ukraine now since the war is going on. Is this the same with yellow fever? No, not at all. Traveling overseas to find a partner is not yellow fever. However, traveling overseas to only date oriental ladies and assume they are all subservient, passive, sexualized, family-oriented, naive, assume they are like this, like that, then it is the second type of yellow fever we were talking about. It is passport bros with yellow fever. The name is a bit long. I'm sure it happens, and unfortunately, this is something we can't change. Someone can have yellow fever for thousands of reasons, depends on how they grew up and how they are influenced by the environment. So nothing much to discuss here. The fact is fact. We can't change it unless they realize they need to change it. It is the same thing with some Asian women fantasizing about foreigners being rich, handsome, romantic, and masculine. I mean, at the end of the day, it is still up to you to accept a partner like this or not, right? So we can't really judge much here. Do those passport bros deserve being insulted for traveling overseas to seek love? In my opinion, no, not at all. I don't think they deserve the hatred and humiliation just because they choose to date a woman outside their country. I mean, everyone is free to live a life they want, to love whoever they want. It is up to them. You may dislike the fact that they choose to marry a foreign woman instead of an American woman. It is okay. It is fine. It is human nature that we don't like disparities. But I mean, as long as they don't bother you, then it is fine, right? It is their business that they are happy or miserable with their foreign women, right? However, if those passport bros start attacking American women and making jokes about them being left over after they found their true love overseas, then it is wrong. It definitely deserves a fight, and I will join the fight as well. In addition, COVID has changed the way how people used to work. More and more people choose to work remotely in recent 2-3 years, which means more and more men and women will be leaving their countries to resign and work in a different country. This definitely boosts the chance of interracial relationships and marriages. Just look at those travel YouTubers, okay? They have been on the way all the time. Do you think it is more likely for them to fall in love with someone from home or on the way? I think the answer is obvious, right? So my suggestion is to let it be. This is a trend. There is no going back. This world will only get more globalized. This is inescapable. What you can do is to focus on yourself, focus on things which can actually make you happy, make you feel content, like develop a new hobby, or learn a new language, or go traveling, whatever. Just don't waste your time on those American men who are determined to leave already, okay? Their heart and soul are not in the USA anymore, okay? So just let it go. Some prefer Asian, some prefer black, some prefer white, Latino, Indian, whatever you prefer. As long as two of you are truly in love, then who cares? It is a beautiful romance that deserves the best blessings and wishes. My advice is that try always evaluate someone as an individual instead of their face, color, or race. Otherwise, you would miss out on some great people. After all, falling in love is hard enough already. Why can't we be a bit nicer to people who are truly in love? They did nothing wrong but fell in love with each other, right? Comment and share your thoughts with me. I will see you next time, guys. Bye bye.